Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, my name is Tanisha and I love taking you along on my reading journey. And in today's video I'm going to do some mood reading. I don't know how many books I'm going to read in this video, but I guess my mood will lead the way and we'll see how many books we get done. But right now I am in the middle of The Only One Left by Riley Sager, so I guess that will be the first book of this video. I really felt the need to do some mood reading because the last book that I finished was A Little Life by Hani Ayana Kihara, and I'm not really in a slump, but I'm not as excited to read because I obviously feel a lot of emptiness after finishing that book. I did finish that book on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I started Emily Wells' Encyclopedia of Fairies. I read that on Thursday and Friday and I got until page 100, but after that I really didn't feel the need to pick that book back up. I'm most likely still going to finish it, but just not right now because I really felt the need to read a thriller, so that's why I started The Only One Left by Riley Sager. And The Only One Left is about Kit, who is a caretaker of Lenora. And Lenora is an infamous woman because when she was 17 years old her entire family was killed. She used to live with her mom, her dad and her sister in a very big house on the edge of a cliff, and one night her entire family was murdered and she was the only one left alive. So obviously everyone thinks that she did it, but she always denied the fact that she was the killer. And now she is 71, but she's no longer able to take care of herself because she got a stroke, so she can't talk and she can't walk. All she can do is type on a typewriter, and that is also how she is going to tell her story to Kit because she finally trusts someone to tell the truth. I started it last night in bed. I read for about an hour and I got until page 70, which is crazy, but I am flying through this story. And I also did a little bit of reading during my lunch break, and now I am on page 107. And since that lunch break I have not been able to think about anything else but this book, so I'm so glad that I'm home so I can read some more because I'm just so interested in what this story is going to give me. The way that the house is described really makes you think about all the scary houses that you see in horror movies, and I love horror movies, although I'm not able to pronounce horror properly. But anyway, the vibes in this story are very eerie, and I also don't know if I can trust Kit. So yeah, so far so good, and I can't wait to see what this story is going to bring. I have had this book on my TBR for quite some time and I have pretty high hopes just of what I've heard about the book, and also because of my experience with the previous book that I read from Riley Sager. So yeah, grab a drink and watch me mood read to get over A Little Life, I guess. I'm currently about 35% into the book, but I thought it would be best to update you now because I fear I'm going to finish this book before I can update you again. Because yesterday I started this video and I was on page 107, and right now I'm on page 260 just because I couldn't stop reading last night. I went to bed at 2 a.m. while I had work today just because I could not stop reading. This book is such a good page turner. You go back and forth between two timelines. You follow Kit during the present while she is taking care of Lenora, but you also read about Lenora's story through the typewriter. So you basically have a past and present timeline. There are a bunch of plot twists and also cliffhangers. So every single time you think, okay, this is going to be the last chapter, and then the chapter ends and you just want to continue reading. That is also why I went to bed so late, because I remember going to bed around 9:30 p.m. and I was laying in my bed for about 15 minutes, and then I turned on the light again and grabbed my Kobo because I wanted to continue reading, and then it was around 1 a.m. and I went to bed again, and then I picked my Kobo back up again just because I couldn't stop thinking about the story. But eventually around 2 a.m. I was so tired that I had to put the book down. But since then I have been constantly thinking about how the last chapter that I read ended and that I really want to continue reading. So that is why I decided to update you right now, because I will probably start reading now. It is only 7 p.m. and I think I'm going to finish this book today, if not tomorrow morning. So it's safe to say that I am really enjoying this story, and I honestly think this is going to be a 5-star, which is crazy because I don't rate thrillers 5 stars easily. I have high hopes for the rest of the story. Good morning. It is 9:30 a.m. and I have the day off to work on my school assignments, but I decided to take a slow morning because yesterday I stayed up until 1 a.m. because I could not stop reading this book, but I didn't finish it. I got until 77% and right now I am trying to finish the book before 10 a.m. because that is when I really want to start working on my school assignments. And right now I am on page 600 and this ebook has 675 pages. So I have 75 pages left in 30 minutes, which I obviously cannot do because I can read fast but not that fast. So I'm afraid that I'm going to have to finish this book during my lunch break later. But right now I am in the middle of a bunch of plot twists and turns, and a lot of things are unraveling. I really thought when I was 50% into the book that I was going to guess the ending, but honestly I have been so wrong. I had a theory and it was partly right, but the part that I was wrong at was so big that I basically just was bamboozled when everything unfolded, and I feel like I stopped in the middle where a lot of more things are unfolding. So I'm not going to yap for much longer because I really want to use that 30 minutes to read as much as possible. But yeah, so far so good. This book still gives me a big 5-star feeling, so we'll see if the last 75 pages will keep it up or if it will be lowered. It's 10 a.m. I only have 30 pages left. I just stopped at the biggest plot twist ever. And now I have to stop reading, which is horrible. But I'm also excited to continue reading this during my lunch break. So I'm just going to grind for the next 3-ish hours. And at least I have finishing this book to look forward to, and after I finish the book and eat my lunch I can continue studying. But this is not a study vlog, this is a reading vlog, so I will see you when I finish this book and start my next book. But oh my god, I finished The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and like I thought it would be, it was a solid 5-star book. I have 0 notes. There were a lot of twists and turns to keep you on your toes, and even though I thought I had guessed the plot twist, I surely didn't. read, which was amazing because I was flabbergasted. And especially the last 50-ish pages were crazy. So I really enjoyed my reading experience, and I also feel like I got out of the slump that A Little Life left me in. So it's time to pick the next book. I don't have proper bookshelves right now, so I am storing my books temporarily in a built-in cabinet in my house. But the way that my books are laid out right now is in a way where I can't easily find the books that I'm looking for. I have set some books of my physical TBR aside in a drawer so I can easily get them. But the book I was specifically looking for is You by Caroline Kepnes, but I cannot find it. I don't know where I put it. I have looked in my cabinets multiple times now and I just cannot find the physical copy. So I guess I'm going to read it on my Kobo. I really wanted to read the physical copy because it is in English and the Kobo version that is in my Kobo Plus subscription is in Dutch. So I guess I have to read the first book in Dutch, but maybe that is for the better because if I read it on my Kobo, I can read the entire series in Dutch since I only have the first and third book in the series. So I guess that is a positive to the negative of me not being able to find the book. I'm not going to start the book right away because I have to continue studying, but I am glad that I already have the next book picked out because that will make it much easier to pick it up during breaks or when I'm in bed tonight. It is several days later. The last time that I spoke to you, it was Wednesday, and right now it is Sunday. So it has been a few days, and that's not because I've been making a bunch of progress, because I've truly not. I started this book on Wednesday right after I finished filming the last clip of me talking, and I think I filmed a couple of clips of me reading, but honestly I only read about, I would say, 10 pages and then I didn't read for several days. And today I finally picked the book back up and I'm currently on page 59 out of 729. I know the physical copy doesn't have that many pages, but since I'm reading on my Kobo, this is the information that I'm going with, and so far I am really liking it. I am on chapter 5 right now, and I obviously knew what this book was going to be about before starting, since I had seen the show. So right now I am following Joe Goldberg, who is a bookshop employee in New York, and on one of his work days he meets Guinevere Beck, who is a literature writing student at the University of Columbia, Brown, one of the big fancy schools in New York. And Joe fell head over heels for Guinevere. She goes by Beck, by the way, so I'm just going to call her Beck from now on. But Joe is head over heels in love with Beck, and he is not the normal kind of in love, because normally when you just meet someone, you stalk their Instagram, you try to maybe be in the same place as they are so that you can meet again. But he takes his obsession very seriously, and obsession is the only word that you can use for him and what he feels for her, because he goes to her house and looks into her window from around the street and stuff like that. So he is something else. I try to not compare the book too much with the show, but I have already seen some differences. For example, Beck has multiple siblings that are not really talked about in the show, and also the meet cute between Beck and Joe is way stronger in the book than in the show. You obviously see their chemistry in the show when they first meet, but the conversation that they have in the book is way longer, and therefore you kind of see their connection more. It makes way more sense for him to like her just because of the conversation that they have in the book. But obviously the book is always better than the adaptation, and you cannot turn every single line in a book into a TV show, because then the TV show will be so long that people will not keep watching. So I get why there are differences, but I think it's funny to see them, because normally I don't really watch adaptations, so I never really notice the differences. But since I have seen the show multiple times, I haven't seen the later seasons multiple times. I've only seen season 4 and 5 one time, but season 1, 2, 3 I have seen multiple times. So obviously what is supposed to be the adaptation of season 1 or book 1, I mean, is imprinted in my mind, so I know what to look for, if that makes sense. But this is a reading vlog, so from now on I'm not going to talk about the differences anymore, but just focus on the writing and my reading experience. And so far I am really enjoying this story. I obviously needed a couple of days to get into the story. Since I picked it back up today, I am fully invested and I honestly cannot think about anything but that I want to keep reading. It is several hours later. I'm currently on page 168. 168, and I have made quite some progress because I'm already on 28%. And I honestly don't feel like I've been reading that many hours. The writing is just very easy, and I think it also helps that I've seen the show and therefore can visualize what Joe and Beck look like, but also what some of the places look like that they are talking about. So it really feels like I am watching a movie or a show instead of reading a book, which is always fun to have because you get really immersed into the world that is built. I know that a lot of readers have that with every single book, that they can really visualize in their head what things look like, but I don't really have that. I also don't think in images, if that makes sense. So I think it is called aphantasia, but it is basically, I will put a picture on the screen. Some people can visualize an actual apple and I visualize nothing, and it is a spectrum. So some people only see lines, some people only see it a little bit but not very clear, but I do not see anything. When I close my eyes and think, I just see black. So when I'm reading a book, I cannot really visualize what people look like or what places look like. So having a show to use as some sort of template, if that makes sense, really helps with this book. So I think that is why I am flying through it a little bit faster than other books. But I also think the concept of this story is just very much up my alley because it has the feelings of a thriller, but there's also some romance in it. But you're in the head of a guy, which I don't read very often because the books that I normally read are either dual POV or I'm only in the girl's head. So it is kind of refreshing that I am in the guy's head. And this is also my very first Caroline Kepnes book, and so far I really like her writing style. It is obviously the Dutch translation that I'm reading right now, so I don't know if her exact writing is like the Dutch translation, but just the way that words are used and the chapter lengths and stuff like that are very good. And I also like how the characters are fleshed out, if that makes sense. So far I'm having a lot of fun. It is almost 9:30 p.m. so I am going to take a shower, put on my PJs, and then read some more in bed before I go to sleep. The sun is setting and I am cozy reading in my bed. perks of having your bedroom in the attic is when it rains, it is so cozy to read in bed. So obviously when it started raining, I decided to take a quick shower and then spend the rest of my evening in bed reading. Today is Tuesday, so it has been 2 days, I think, since I last updated you, and I'm now 50% into You, the book, and I'm having so much fun with this book. I have two feelings or thoughts that keep coming in my head while reading. One, I really wish that I worked in a bookshop. The bookshop is not the most spoken about location, but still all the scenes that are taking place in the shop, especially the scenes where Joe is working, really makes me think about me wanting to be a bookshop employee. But I love that I'm living through Joe, even though I don't want to be him, because his thought process is so scary. Because the second thought that keeps popping into my mind is that this book gives me a very eerie feeling, and that is a feeling that I didn't get from the show. I know that I promised that I wasn't going to compare the show to the book anymore, and I'm not talking about specific scenes that are different. I'm talking about the feeling that I have while reading the book compared to the feeling that I had watching the movie, or the show, I mean. Me watching the show was just me enjoying myself. Obviously, the things that were shown were not fun, but I was entertained. In the book, I am also entertained, but I have a very eerie feeling. Every time I am in Joe's mind, which is on every single page, I have this gut feeling that he is scary. And I think I didn't really have that feeling with the TV show, because the actor that is playing Joe Goldberg is also an actor that I really liked in Gossip Girl. And I think that I still associate his face with the Gossip Girl character then, and not really with the scary stalker Joe. So even though I have seen all the scary scenes that are taking place in this book, even though this book is not super scary, but it is just a eerie feeling, like I said before, but I don't think in images, so I don't see Joe Goldberg from the TV show when I'm reading this book. So I can really dive into the story thinking about a scary man instead of Dan Humphrey from Gossip Girl, if that makes sense. So even though this book is not properly scaring me, because I don't think any book has done that before, but I still feel a little uneasy reading this book, which is perfect, because that is what you want while reading a book like this. So yeah, I'm having so much fun, and I'm also finally halfway through. I'm honestly reading on every single occasion that I have. I'm reading before work in the morning. Like, I'm reading in the morning before work. I'm reading during my lunch break. I'm reading during my dinner break. I'm reading during my study breaks. Every single moment that I have free, I'm reading. And it doesn't take me any effort. So I'm so glad that my reading habit is finally back. But I'm also glad that this book makes it very easy to come back to it every single time I have a free moment. Because that means I am reading a book that really entertains me. I'm on page 366, and I don't think I'm going to update you again until I finish the book, just because I don't think there is much to update you on as the story progresses, because the farther you go into a story, the less you can say, unless it is a spoiler video, but this is a spoiler-free reading vlog. So I am going to update you again when I finish the book to give my final thoughts and end the video, I think. I will talk to you later. I don't know when I last updated you, but today it is Sunday again, and I just finished You 30 minutes ago, and I honestly really liked the rest of the book. I think I updated you last when I was 50% into the book, and the second 50% was just as good as the first 50%. This book wasn't a 5-star read, which was very clear to me since I read 2 5-star books before, since I read A Little Life and then The Only One Left. And even though I really enjoyed You, I didn't really get the 5-star feeling, if that makes sense. So it's not a 5-star, but it is a solid 4.5, so I am so glad that I picked it up. And I also see myself reading the rest of the series this year. Not right away, because I have other books to finish first, but I'm very confident that I'm going to read the rest of the series this year. So if you want me to film that, let me know. The second book of this video is done, and since it is almost 2 weeks since I started this video, I think it is time to finish or end the video. I'm so glad that I picked up 2 solid books in this video. Obviously it was a mood reading vlog, and you never know what books you want to pick up or what you are in the mood for, and if those books are good. But I think my mood was very right this time and led me to 2 amazing books. So obviously I first read The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I rated it 5 stars. I still think about that book so many times during the day, so I think 5 stars is the best rating to give that book. And You by Caroline Kepnes got 4.5 stars. So yeah, that is my mood reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below what your last 5-star book was, and I will see you in my next video whenever I post it. Bye!